Everybody, welcome to today's chat. I'm excited to host this. It's my first time doing anything like this, so bear with me. But I'm excited to chat with the folks today. We're going to talk a little bit about music and mental health and how melody can ignite and inspire change. So I want to welcome everybody who's tuning in. Thank you, and I welcome the folks on the panel. But I guess we're going to get right into the questions here. You all come from very different parts of the music industry. Could each of you start out telling us a little bit about your backgrounds and why you got into the music industry? Why don't we start with Anthony?
Okay. Shit. Okay, cool. My name's Anthony Green. I'm a singer-songwriter. I started playing in bands when I was probably like a freshman in high school, and played all around Philadelphia, and you know, just been making music since then. I moved out to California and joined a band when I was 20 called Seosin, and then was in that band for about a year, and then moved back to Philly and started a group with friends of mine, you know, from high school, and some other people moved in from all over the country, and we got in a van and started touring, and the rest is sort of history.
I think I actually licensed a song from Seosin, so nice to meet you in person here finally. So that's great.
That's cool. I actually started the band with guys from this. There was a Philadelphia hardcore band called This Day Forward, and the drummer and guitar player and I started a band called Circa Survive that we're in now, and we've been touring for 15 years.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining today. Laurin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Laurin Talise, and I am, as one of my good friends from Philly, Deanna Williams says, I'm Cleveland born and Philly infused. I moved to Philly to attend the University of the Arts in 2000. And I've been here ever since. I got my start doing background vocals for a myriad of different artists. And in 2016, actually released my debut album. But in between time, performing all around the Philadelphia area and abroad. And most recently, I represented the United States as a cultural ambassador for the country in Poland, Montenegro, and Ukraine. And I sing jazz that is influenced by life. It's influenced by my life as a Black woman walking through these streets. It's influenced by all the things I love, like old Hollywood films and nature and fashion, and you can hear all that in my music. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow. Fantastic. Thank you. Elizabeth, why don't you go next?
Sure. So my name is Elizabeth Phillips and Weiner. I am originally from the Philadelphia area, Lower Merion specifically. I grew up I have a classical music background. I was a classical trombone player for years and years. And that's kind of how I got my start in music. I played, you know, in the Philly music scene, Philadelphia Youth Orchestra. And then I went to college at NYU, and I sort of fell into film scoring because I had an interest in filmmaking. I had some friends who were filmmakers, and one of my friends one day was like, I need music for a film. And I was like, I could probably do that. And I've been doing that for the last 10 years. So I kind of fell backwards into film scoring, but it really combines a passion I have for music and storytelling. So that's kind of how I got my start.
Wow, thank you. Chill.
I'm Chill Moody from West Philadelphia. I'm a hip hop artist, entrepreneur. I serve as the Philadelphia Music Ambassador, connecting a lot of independent artists in the city with opportunities that the city has to offer. I got my start, I don't know, it just was a natural start. Like, this was kind of like the natural path for me. I never wanted to work for anyone. I say I never seen myself with the boss. I always wanted to be one. I can remember early on, like, candy stores in front of my mom's house, like on, you know, young boy entrepreneur stuff. And hip hop was always just the strongest driving point, the connecting driving point in everything that I did. Like, everything that I ever done. I think is somehow, some way, hip hop influenced. So it was kind of just like a natural progression of everything that I was doing to become a rapper. I originally wanted to be A&R and work behind the scenes and things like that, but started writing for people, and you know, I just fell into being an artist and fell in love with it. So yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it. And I'm looking to get into scoring. I started making beats during the pandemic, so I'm gonna reach out after this panel and see what's up, Elizabeth.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thanks, Joe. That's a great segue. I mean, I'm sure you guys all have something to say about this. So feel free to anyone to jump in. But how has the pandemic affected how you do and what you do? We can start with Elizabeth. Yeah, go ahead.
Everybody was like waiting to jump in. I was just gonna say last year was completely different. Last year I was on tour with Don T, with Ann Moore, and we had about 60, 70 dates last year, and it was a completely, change of course this year. It's changed a lot. The first 2 months were probably the most difficult because it was like, all right, everything's about to be different. What am I going to do to make money? What am I going to do to keep my name out there? All of those things. And it just took a little minute to regroup and refocus and understand how to navigate this new normal that we've all, kind of started, leaning on that phrase. But all in all, I found a way to be productive throughout it all.
Anyone else? Elizabeth?
Similarly, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Laurin. Go ahead.
Yeah, Laurin, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's a similar story for me. Last year, I started the year by signing with a booking agent, which is so funny because you got all these dates lined up, you got an album on track to be recorded, and like I remember where I was when I figured out, okay, so this is actually a pandemic happening right now. I was in New York. I was walking down the street with my friends, and I got my first cancellation on my email. And literally for the next 2 weeks, every day was a cancellation in my inbox till my whole year had been blown out. So that was interesting to grapple with, like Chill said. And then after that, I just kind of started asking myself, okay, now you've given yourself some time to kind of readjust and get your life together somewhat, your mind together somewhat. What can you do during this time? What have you been wanting to do? I had just literally been in Japan for 2 months last year, Russia, like all these places, and I was looking forward to going back, and it took me reshifting to think about the fact that usually us artists are like, go, go, go. Our calendars are jam-packed. We're penciling in a call with our parents. So like to have the actual time to really think, what is the best use of this time, and what have I always wanted to do if I had more time? And that was a great exercise to ask myself that, because I've started learning how to record my own vocals, which I never thought to do before. Yeah. Welcome to 2020. And I started learning languages. I'm learning Portuguese, which is awesome because I love singing Portuguese music, Brazilian art songs. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been a little adventure.
Wow.
Anything else to add, Liz? Anthony?
Yeah, I guess so. For me, I kind of, I think like most artists, we have a lot of different things that we do to make ends meet. So, I teach trombone, I teach ukulele, I'm a songwriter. A lot of these things kind of like went away, like a third of what I do on a day-to-day basis kind of went away. So it was similar to Laurin. I was like, what am I refocusing towards? Because there was like, you have to figure out what to do now. So I think it's kind of pushed me really strongly into what I've been doing for a while, but just in like an even bigger way, film scoring, because I can do it fully remotely. I have a home studio, and it also allowed me to I've been able to have my friends kind of record stems at their house and send me stuff. So I've actually had a lot more live instruments on my scores than usually I can afford, because, you know, it's very expensive to get like a whole orchestra in a room and record together. And it's actually been really nice to be able to like give my friends a couple $100s to record tracks and then feature them on a film score and kind of put it together that way. So it's definitely just like a new normal. It's like a reorganization of everything you're doing. And it's hard, but I don't know that yet that we know if it's like positive or negative. I think it's just like different, quite different.
Absolutely. Anthony.
I just want to say that just hearing everybody else's like a story about how it's kind of like derailed, you know, it makes me feel like less alone to just hear your guys's like take on all of it, you know, because this is something like I haven't had that many people I feel like I could talk to about it, just because, you know, it's our jobs are so different, you know, and it's sometimes difficult to find other, at least for me, talking, you know, to other, you know, parents and other people like, you know, that are working, like they don't really get like the touring aspect of everything being away and how it all is just. My band Circa Survive was recording. We got all together, and we had a guy that lives in Portland, so he flew in, and we were recording and getting ready for this tour. It was a 10-year anniversary of our third album, and we were going to do a tour playing it front to back. And we were literally all getting together a couple weeks before the tour when everything started to happen, and we were sitting around a room thinking like, what is like when everybody started to find out about it, you know, we were rehearsing. And we had to cancel the tour. And it was like, you know, 4 or 5 weeks out. And, you know, we were just starting to kind of get to everything rolling for it. And last year, you know, we were probably away for 6 months out of the year touring, you know, the US and abroad. And in between those times when the band wasn't working and touring, I would be playing acoustic shows for 2 weeks or a weekend here and there. And so, you know, I was looking at this year thinking like, man, I really need to take a little bit of time off and like space some time out to be with my family. I have 4 little boys. And when all of this happened, it was such a event. Like I didn't want to cancel the tour. I remember being the last one to be like, you know, to believe this was really happening. I was hearing all the information come in from different places being like, no, this is not going to be a big deal. And, you know, I remember the day where we all sat in a room looking at each other, you know, as a group, and we thought like, we have to cancel this, you know, we can't put people at risk. This is like a real thing that's happening, you know. And it was terrifying, and it was, you know, it was a huge shock. And I never thought that it was going to continue and be this, like, you know, we didn't know what to think, what was going to happen. So we just we canceled the tour. As we canceled the tour, you know, a week later, we see every tour getting canceled, everybody, you know, calling it. And I have stopped trying to answer the question. People are like, so when do you think shows are going to come back? I don't even think about that anymore. I'm just trying to adapt to this. Like I've been doing online shows, you know, once or twice a month. I started trying to do Cameo. You know, I'll send messages to people sometimes, like if they're having a birthday or they're like, just need to pick me up. You know, I've been trying. The band does a Patreon that has been huge, and that's been pretty cool because we've been covering songs and sort of probably spending more time trying to be creative and make something new than we have together in a long time because of all this. So there's positives to it, but I miss playing in front of people. I miss the live show so much.
So, Anthony, why don't we stick with you too? How do you think this has actually helped artists get away from sort of the traditional album tour kind of cycle? I mean, how has that changed? How have you guys you know, how has that affected what you guys do?
Well, you know, I think that in the last couple of years, we've all seen the traditional album cycle type of thing kind of deconstructing a little bit, with people just releasing albums and releasing things, you know, on the, like without any buildup, without any you know, rollout. And that in and of itself is like gets people talking and it is cool. And I think that the idea that we need to have this like fanfare and build up for something sometimes is like counterproductive. You know, when I don't know, as a fan of music, like I just want music, you know, and the day that I hear an artist that I like has something out, that's a great day. You know, it doesn't need to be like you hear a 15-second clip and then a week later there's like an announcement of, you know, so, you know, I like the fact that it gives, which I think is like sort of a product of how things have been run through the industry. Like there needs to be this marketing plan. And I think the idea that people can abandon that a little bit and just go right for like the visceral, like, hey, I made something, I need to put it out right now. Here's an easy way to do it. You know, maybe it's not the most like financially viable way. It doesn't like catch people, you know, like it doesn't go out and do the traditional, you know, throw the net and try to get as many people as possible. It sort of, you know, plays right to your direct audience or right to people that want to hear the music right away.
So Chill, I mean, I know that you sort of dabble on both sides of this. How do you feel like the industry sort of needs to adapt to what's happening, you know, over the last couple of years, but especially the last 6 to 8 months?
I've seen, let's say in the last, you know, 6 weeks or whatever, I've seen the industry kind of show signs of how they're going to adapt to this. You know, the live performances or the award shows were kind of a good indication of the fact that we're going to lean into these filmed performances. Live Nation did some things with Tidal, with Lil Uzi, and I think Make the Stallion did one as well, filmed live performances. So I see people leaning into that a little bit more. I also see people not as selfish with their releases. Like those of us that are putting out music, we're just getting it out. We're just putting it out. I haven't seen, as he was speaking to the like the long rollouts and the extended rollouts and all of that. I think in a weird, morbid sense, a lot of people felt like, you know, we don't know what's promised tomorrow. Like anything can happen at this point. So a lot of people have just been releasing their music. I'm one, for instance, I start putting out music every Monday, like regardless of what's going on, I'm putting out something every Monday indefinitely. And I've seen a lot of other artists do a lot of like hard drop dumps, if you will. So I think it's going to change, you know, in that sense. And it's also going to bring a lot of attention to a lot of artists who may not have been in the, you know, the biggest spotlight, because a lot of artists, like if you're just talking just hip hop, like Kendrick or maybe J. Cole, even, like people have kind of, they're waiting to see what the lay of the land is going to be before they release. And a lot of people had plans on releasing this year. And because of that, it's just open space and it's open season for anybody that's hungry to kind of just jump out there. There's really no rules right now. Yeah. So I see those changes for sure. And I've seen them more in the last, like, let's say like 6 weeks.
That's it's definitely how I've kind of seen things rolling out myself from my you know, where I sit over at ESPN in the sports sort of sync world. Hopefully you guys will all feel comfortable talking about this. You know, mental health has always been an important issue, especially now more than ever. Like I said, I come from the sports and music world, and a lot of you know, very important people have been speaking up on this in the sports space as well. How do you guys, how has music helped you work through your own mental health challenges or, you know, folks in your inner circles, et cetera? I'd love to hear from anyone who's willing to share.
I mean, I think in general,
I want to hear from you. Yeah, sorry. I wanted to hear from you guys. I didn't want to jump in and say anything. I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, but hey, I'm here. I think that in general, music is really, it's healing. It's cathartic in general to listen to your favorite song. I know that even at live shows, which we're aching to get back to, I've had people come up to me and say, this song is literally exactly how I felt yesterday, or how I felt right before I got to the show. Thank you for letting me know I wasn't alone in this angst. Thank you for letting me know I wasn't alone being alone. Thank you for letting me know that I'm not weird, and other folks, via the songs you write and the lyrics that you wrote, other folks are going through the same thing as me, literally in tears, or somebody say this song makes me think of, you know, a beautiful person in my life. And that could save somebody's life, in my opinion. Just the fact that you can be so dialed in listening to some positive lyrics and they counteract the negative thoughts in your brain at your lowest moment. So I think that is, to me, that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about how music can impact mental health.
Yeah. I love that.
I think for me,
yes,
so,
please.
yeah, so I'm fine being super open. So I'm a huge fan of therapy. I've done therapy for a really long time. I think therapy should be accessible for everyone and everywhere. And I think there's this movement in society in general. We're talking more about mental health, which I think is amazing, and destigmatizing it. And it's also getting way more affordable and accessible. Like there's apps where you can jump on and find a therapist, like kind of as needed, like a la carte. There's also like meditation apps, which is meditation is becoming super mainstream. And everyone is kind of turning their focus towards like an increased mindfulness, which I think is great for everyone. I think for me as a musician, I found writing to be really therapeutic. And it's almost like when you're songwriting or like acting as a lyricist, it's like a wiser part of your brain takes over, and you sort of like therapize yourself. So I think just to, like speaking to Laurin's point, I think like people who hear that and connect with you, like it becomes a support system for them. And it just came from like some smarter part of your brain that day that could jump in and take over for you, like when you needed it. And then it reached other people. So I think that like our job as artists right now is like to do that for other people and kind of go there with our own feelings and put them into our work and see if we can lift other people up, even from like behind a computer screen, potentially, if it has to be that way for now.
I love that. Yeah, I suffer from, I mean, I shouldn't say I suffer from it. I don't know why I immediately start saying I suffering, but I live with bipolar disorder and severe depression. And, you know, I also am in recovery. I'm a recovering heroin addict. And this whole time has been very difficult. I'm really good with routine and schedule. It sounds weird to be a touring musician and need a routine, but when I'm home, you know, I keep a routine. And I'll go to, you know, Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and when I'm on the road, I keep a routine, and I try to, you know, keep a positive, like, head on my shoulders. I try to keep away from anything that's going to be super tempting. And just the playing gets, like playing live, you get a lot of release. I get a lot of release from that. And like you were saying, like writing in general too, just makes me feel like I'm a part of something. Like I'm doing my purpose in the world. And I'm, you know, I think that music has been something for me my whole life that I can escape to, you know, but it's also, it serves as an avenue to get honest. Like I can say something in a song, you know, about somebody that I love in my life that I couldn't necessarily say to them. You know, I can work things out and process them in ways that might seem like to the listener, like it's like this honest, you know, this like wearing your heart on your sleeve, but it's really kind of getting out and processing something without somebody necessarily. And that's not always healthy. You know, like sometimes I think I'm worked through something when in a song and it's like, I just sort of internalized it and it feels like a release, but I didn't talk to the person about the thing I needed to talk to them about. But yeah, I suffered a relapse I'm suffering so much, but I had a relapse right before all this. And and then the NA meetings, like I'm home now, so I'm not on the road, so the schedule's messed up. And then the NA meetings stopped because of the pandemic. People can't really get together. And so a lot of stuff had to get shifted around, and I really needed to, and I'm still, you know, trying to get readjusted. Like you were saying, like you started to record yourself at home. Like I relearned how to do that. And so I've been working a lot more from my home. I used to go to the studio all the time. There's a great studio in Philadelphia called Studio 4. William, is a great guy, and he's my producer, and we haven't been able to really get together and do stuff. And so finding ways of expressing that, you know, it becomes overwhelming in itself. So like I'm still trying to make time management a priority and self-care a priority. And I, you know, got kids that just started school. So it's like, it's quite difficult. And I think that just having the dialogue about mental health and all across the board, but I think especially for us, it can be like something that people don't really think about, because, you know, you're like you say, you're singing about all this stuff, you're writing about all this stuff, and it seems like you're processing it, but sometimes, you know, it can be stifling, you know, and it hurts just as much in that moment, you know. Having ways that we can actually deal with things rather than just hide them in a song is like like therapy. Like you were saying, I'm in therapy. I'm doing it all. Like I'm seeing 2 therapists. Like I'm trying to keep it together here.
Wow, Anthony, thank you for sharing.
The key thing you talked about, and
Thank you.
key thing you talked about was that routine. Like it's important to, you know, maintain some sort of routine.
It's crazy, right?
I've realized I've always put a lot of just a lot of those type of thoughts into the music, so I've used that as therapy, you know, throughout this all. But coming into the pandemic and, you know, dealing with this, I'm like, this is a new situation. Like these are new thoughts.
Next level.
A next level, something I'm fighting. And what I found that has helped most musically has been speaking to other artists, because this is one time for sure that I know everybody's affected some way or another. You know, problems that I may have had before may have seemed like they were isolated to, you know, my experiences, but this is something I think that I know globally we're all experiencing. So some way or somehow, any artist I speak to, I'm making sure to check in. I'm making sure to, you know, talk it all the way through with them, and that's really helped. That, you know, the cliches always remain the same. You know, the you're not alone and all of those things. Like, but that shit is true. Like, and that helps, and that's what's been helping me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for sharing. I mean, I'm hearing some amazing advice just as you guys are talking through your own situations, but do you have any further advice to folks listening about dealing with that, or any resources that you would recommend? You know, we can start with Laurin, and please all chime in.
Okay. Yes, I have some recommendations. I think that, as many people on this panel have already said, therapy is your best friend. Get you a therapist, be friends with them, talk to them often. And there are, I mean, obviously, to some extent, it's a privilege to be able to afford a therapist in many iterations. However, there's therapy for Black girls. There is Black Men Heal. There are Facebook communities that you have to, you know, exercise discretion to get into, but find somebody to talk to that you can trust with your heart, and that you can trust with medicine if it's a therapist. But if it's a family member, if it's a therapist, find somebody to talk to, because you have to get it out. And also, one of the things that I've been doing is meditating when I get up in the morning instead of scrolling. That's definitely helped me out a lot, because, you know, some people are real good at like making their lives look really, really perfect, and like nothing has changed online, and you don't know it, but it could be seeping in to your unconscious or subconscious, and making you feel like dag, I'm really behind, or whatever, nothing's worth it. So I think that's one thing you should do. Center yourself and kind of tell yourself some affirmations before you start the day, what you're going to get handled. And I also think that something that I learned a bit ago was that I felt really bad when I didn't honor my commitments to myself. If you set goals for yourself, even if they're 2 for the entire day, do those 2 things, and it'll be so crazy how good you feel about the potential for the next day and the next day and the next song and the next whatever you're working on, folks who are tuning in. So I think that if you can, try to have a little routine, figure out how you're going to start your day, and then also honor at least 2 commitments to yourself. You don't even have to tell anybody what you said you're going to do, but honor those commitments. And I think that helps out a lot.
Yo, that's so funny that you said that, because that's something when I was in rehab that they were teaching people to do. They said, when you wake up in the morning, think about something you're grateful for, even if it's like just 3 things, whatever it is, and then make like a thing for yourself for that day. Like, today I'm going to exercise and I'm going to, take a walk, whatever it is. Like, just do that. And then you have that sense of like, hey, I said something, and I did it,
I handled that.
Yeah. I can do things.
I can do things. Yeah.
So how do you, Chill, why don't we start with you on this one? How do you think the music industry could do a better job supporting artists when it comes to mental health? And just to add to that, I already had it's an interesting viewer question that came in that sort of ties to this. How can artists better support each other when dealing with that, with mental health?
We kind of talked around it a little bit. I think Liz talked about the destigmatizing, mental illness or whatever. I think that's really the most important part of it. Like, understanding that, how can I put it without offending people? Like, it's like an illness just like any other illness. So if I'm walking around sneezing, you're going to say, oh, you might be coming down with something. If I'm walking around and I'm off and you see that, it should be addressed in the same manner. Oh, you might be going through something. Let's talk through it, as opposed to, oh, he's crazy or he got the crazy or whatever. Like, it's just weird that we don't our approach to mental illness isn't the same with any other ailment or illness. And when we're able to do that and open up be able to talk about it more freely, I think some type of solution lies in that. As far as what the music industry could do, labels should, I don't know if they do, but labels should have therapists on retainer or, as part of their conglomerate. I think all businesses should have that, because, the stresses that come with work are, a whole different, level of stresses that come around. So I think that's something labels could do. And yeah, like artists just reaching out and, checking in. Royce the 5'9" has the song Strong Friend, is, check in on your strong friend, because a lot of times we're seen in our circles as like, the one people are leaning on, or the one that has reached their aspirations and things like that. And people don't understand that we're going through probably more, or even if it's the same, we're going through things as well. So it's important to continuously check in on your strong friend. So yeah, that's what I got.
I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I think this is kind of this is kind of more of the way society views artists versus like what the music industry could do. But I think there's kind of this toxic notion of like genius in the arts. And like when everybody's virtuosic who succeeds, everybody's a genius who succeeds. And this is all like something that comes from inside the artist. And if you can't come up with something genius, you are never going to amount to the level of success you want to. And I think that that's definitely something that people outside of the arts think, and definitely the way press reports on like, huge meteoric hits, like, the creators of Hamilton are all genius, and you know, anything that strikes a chord with people is like absolutely genius, and no one could ever aspire to that level. So I think as an artist, you if you're kind of off, or if something's not coming to you, you get really down on yourself. And I think especially in the pandemic, when you're already feeling isolated, and you know, there's so much politically going on, and physical health to worry about, you're already in like a lower place than you normally are, and your baseline for dealing with self-doubt is way higher. Like, you don't have the tolerance. So I think if we could kind of, as a society, be kinder to artists and understand that, you know, it's like any other job. Sometimes you've got energy for it, and sometimes you're out of gas, and it's affected by external elements. And it's not just this genius light inside of you that can be conjured at a moment's notice, especially during a global pandemic. I think if we viewed the way artists create differently, that would certainly help artists as a whole.
You're so right. I think it's crazy how it's interesting to me how like that myth of the artist or the people like has built up over time. Even now, like when there's just so many people involved in songwriting, like, and artists feel like they have to be this, you know, I have to write it all by myself and I can't have any help. And it's like, you know, what makes a song great isn't necessarily like, it's not about one person. You know, I'm in a band that we all work together, and there, you know, you always want your part to be like the part that's the coolest, you know, but sometimes it's in a collaboration in anything, in any relationship, it's important to know like when to give and take. And maybe your idea isn't the best, you know, thing, you know, it's working together is always really difficult. But I think you're absolutely right that there's this like toxic idea that people have to have it all together all the time. You don't, like, when you see somebody who like kills it at making foul shots, like you never see all the ones they miss at practice, you know, all you see is them just like destroying it because they did so much work to get there, you know, like, yeah, that's, I feel like there's a responsibility. I can't, like, it's like, I don't know what I would ask a label or what the industry needs to do. I don't even feel like I'm necessarily able to speak about what the industry does, because I feel like I'm sort of on the outside of it. But I think that just in general, like us, it's sort of responsibilities on me to talk about my issues. You know what I mean? And it's on us to be more open with each other. Because I think when artists can connect and they're like, yeah, you know, we're not competing with one another. We're really just, if the idea is just to make a beautiful song that feels true, or a beautiful moment in music or art or poetry or painting, whatever it is, then we can all kind of agree that we're all on the same page of that goal, you know, whatever kind of gets you toward that goal. And I think when we talk about the things like depression or like self-doubt or anxiety, whatever, we will all like just melt into like, thank each other, like, thank God, like you feel the same way, you know, and we don't have to compete. We can just kind of build each other up. I think everybody really wants that, you know, but it just takes us sort of like not being afraid about what people are going to say when you're like, yeah, I'm, you know, bipolar, or I'm whatever, or, you know, I think that that's sort of an important thing. And talking to people, for sure. Like you were saying, Laurin, it's like just finding somebody you can talk to and be yourself with and be honest with, you know, because that's what's tough. We all are trying to be like strong, or we're trying to be the one that has it all together, or we're trying to be like, you know, the genius or whatever it is, you know, and that's just too much pressure. It's, you know, the community of music is such a beautiful place, you know, and it's easy to alienate yourself from it by thinking that you're some important thing, like, you know, because you're not. The muse comes down and sort of blesses people who put the work in, you know, and that means fucking up and missing lots of foul shots and, you know, singing lots of sour notes and writing lots of weird lines that don't make any sense. And, you know,
well, they say inspiration finds you working. So
yeah, right.
It exists, but it finds you work. And I think in general, we, you know, if we're wed to this story about how important we are, then it just, we're going to be whack in general. Like if we think,
yeah, your art just starts to get so
woke
bad.
up this morning and I'm a genius. And so I'm writing genius songs, all genius songs. If it's not a genius
all by
song,
myself,
forget about it. All by myself, I could do it all, you know? I think in general, just, and I would apply this to the industry too. This is idealistic for the industry, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I think that in general, if we really pay attention to what's going on right now, it's basically telling us when money's gone, when opportunities are gone, when you got all these clothes in your closet and nowhere to wear them, when, you know, you're really worrying about how you're putting food on the table and you never thought you would, what is on your mind? What are you thinking about? And who are you? Who are you? Let's break it apart. And I think people are starting to write, from what I'm hearing with my colleagues, they're starting to write tunes about that. Who are they? What do they crave, really? And also, yeah, so.
Oh no! Oh no!
See, in the real Panelist, where she would grab the water and, you know.
I know.
We should start a project. We should start a project. The four of us, or five of us.
Let's do it.
So I think we got time for one more question. So I think I'm going to take one from the viewers, if you guys don't mind.
There's viewers?
Yes, or checking in, correct? Yes? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So music is deeply personal. How do you deal with the nerves of sharing something like that publicly that is so personal? We can certainly start with anyone who wants to jump in first.
I'm only ever like wary of it or a little nervous when I'm sharing a personal experience that involves other people that aren't musicians. And you know, you just got to be a little bit respectful in that, or a lot of bit respectful in that, and not, you know, putting too many, you know, putting people's business out there, but still being able to express yourself. You don't want to, you know, contain any of that emotion and keep that inside. So you want to be able to get that out. But it's a little nerve-wracking when you gotta kind of write around specific instances and things, you know, to make sure everybody's, you know, cool at the end of the day. You don't want to hurt nobody. I have no intention on hurting anybody through any of my lyrics, but I got to get this hurt out. So
yeah.
there's a weird balance you fight with that.
Laurin, anything to add? I'm sorry, while you're taking a drink of water, let me ask you that question.
I've always found it cathartic to share. As you guys might out there watching be able to tell, I'm a sharer. So I'm not shy about that kind of stuff. And I'm fortunate to have grown up in an environment that enabled me to actually say how I'm feeling out loud. So I think maybe one of my purposes on this earth is to create an environment through my music that allows people to feel that same comfort. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Anthony, anything to add? I know it's certainly being in a band, right? You're already collaborating, et cetera, and then you're putting it out in the world. So.
Yeah, I sort of agree with that previous sentiment. You know, I feel most comfortable when writing about something that is like, that's real, that I'm feeling. That's true. But I get like high from singing about something or writing about something that is like almost uncomfortably personal. Like that's how I sort of know that that's how I know that it's right. You know, when I sort of get that I don't know how you explain it, like that tingle of like, oh shit, this is exactly what I need to say and exactly the way I need to say it.
This is how I feel. I actually was able to be articulate and put it into a phrase. Like, I totally get what you're saying.
And I think what you said about like how
Right.
you feel it so much that you want to provide that for people who may not have like, you know, some people, like the environment I was raised in, like having emotions, having feelings, you know, was difficult. And I didn't really learn how to express myself in that way. So, you know, sort of being able to express it for other people who can't. Oh man, that's so beautiful. Holy shit. I love that. I like, that's like how I've always gone about writing lyrics or poetry. It's like, if it is as much about you as possible, you know, is going to be what's beautiful, you know?
Okay, cool. We do have time for more questions, so hopefully you guys are cool to hang for a little bit longer. Liz, why don't we start with you? How do you think music can help others be creative and innovative across, you know, all, you know, other industries?
I think that music is really powerful, and I think the conductor of the youth orchestra that I was in high school would kind of always repeat himself on this. He was like, no matter what you guys all grow up to do, you are going to be better for having studied music. And I think that that's 100% true. I think that, you know, there's no musical center in our brains. Music is kind of dispersed throughout, and it's really attached to memory for us. So I think that it just enriches every single area of your life. And I just think it's so special in that way. And I think that in an artistic way, like, music has so much going on for it. It has melodic storytelling, it has harmonic storytelling, it has lyrical storytelling. So just if you could approach other mediums in the arts as someone approaches music, it really opens doors for you to be really, really creative. But I think even not in the arts, a musical background or, you know, dabbling in music as a hobby, it just enriches every other area of your life.
Thank you. Have any of you sort of discovered new types of artistic expression that you might not have tapped into before the pandemic, but now since we're you know, dealing with you know, being at home, et cetera, would love to hear from anyone on the panel about that.
This might sound a little crazy, but I've always liked cooking, you know, and I love to eat. I just love food so much. And my band Circa Survive, we started a Patreon while we were off tour, which is a website that sort of is like a big fan site, and for like you know, anywhere from like $1, like $25 donation, whatever, you get access to like covers. And we do the band does a podcast together every month that we post up there, and like it's brought us together. Like we're talking more and learning more about each other through this podcast than I ever thought we would. And we've been a band for like 10 years. So, but so we started doing like podcasts, little things like that, but I started making a cooking show that's on the Patreon. And like, so you have to be a member. I think it might be like $5 or something, but I don't know. But I know that like I've been making these videos on my phone where I'll make a burrito or I'll make my smoothie or like a salad or whatever. And I'll like show the thing and I'll do it like Julia Child's like style. And it's like, it's been fun. I honestly, I don't do anything but music. Like, and it's not out of toil. Like I like to, I love it. It's all like, it's my only real hobby. So this thing, like being able to think like, oh, what should I cook next time? Like, oh, how will I prepare it? Like, it's been really fun to do that and to make those, they're really silly videos, but the food's good. And I don't know. I've like found myself getting like as into making those videos and making those meals as I would like writing a song. So that's been cool.
I love it. I think that's interesting because a lot of us have, you know, as it pertains to that question in particular, yes, artistically writing more, reading more, discovering languages, discovering that you like different genres of reading that you thought you knew, how it actually filters itself into your artistic expression is interesting to discover. But also, we kind of, as artists, get into this, mind frame where we're like, we're artists, we create art, and we perform, and that's what we're about to do. And it's no, like so much more makes us who we are, and it's Julia Child's videos.
Yeah.
It's looking at makeup tutorials and doing your own. It's making your smoothies. It's walking in the park. It's everything that really makes you tick and actually indulging that. So I love that you said that, because I think that we forget that our fans and the folks who love our music want to actually know that stuff. Like, who are you outside of all the important stuff that you're doing? What do you do when you're not, around? What's your normal thing? So I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's important too. I mean, I see it from my standpoint. I think it's really important nowadays that we let youth know too that you could be multi-talented in many different things, and it doesn't have to sort of put you in a box. I mean, I always say this: if Kobe tried rapping now instead of when he first did it, it would have been a whole different sort of response from the public at large. Sort of like reacting, how could he be a rapper? He's a basketball player. And it's like, nowadays, I think it's important. I have 2 young boys myself, that to show them that, of course, if you're a good singer, why wouldn't you be a good cook? Like, you can be multi-talented. So that's great to hear that you guys are discovering these things and sharing it with fans. With that, what ideas do you guys have for connecting with your audiences now that, there's the absence of tours and stuff? I think you were leaning to some of that, especially Anthony was talking about podcasts, but are there other ways that y'all are doing it? With Chill, we can start with you and work our way around.
It's really what Laurin just ended with showing the fans, showing the supporters a little bit more of yourself. And we got nothing but time at this point, so I ain't got to show you, me getting ready for a show every time I post. Now I'm cooking, I'm golfing. I started golfing. I started painting. Just start showing, more ways that I'm trying to, express myself, express my creativity. But I've made it a point to like not be too hard on myself in trying to get good at any of these things, aside from cooking, that I'm pursuing now, because it's like I've turned all of my hobbies into jobs, and it's lucrative, but it's not fun. I don't have nothing to do that I do for fun anymore. So it's like, I'm going to golf, and if I'm as good as Charles Barkley one day, then that's enough for me. Like, I don't care about it. Like, here's this piece of art that I painted. It might not look like anything to you, but I know what emotion was in me when I was painting it, and I know I was able to purvey that properly on that canvas. So, it's like I say, it's a lot what Laurin said, just expressing yourself more to the audience and connecting with them in that way, kind of humanizing yourself, taking away the stigma that, artists, like we just are somehow sometimes forced onto like a pedestal that we didn't necessarily ask for.
Yep.
So it's breaking that down is kind of what the focus is at this point.
I really love that. I love that sentiment so much. Just like people reminding them at all times, like, hey, listen, thanks for saying that you like the music or whatever. I appreciate that. But all the other stuff, that's too much, like you. And then what's crazy is they're usually projecting in you something that they feel for themselves. Like they want so bad to, they're like, oh, you're so great. It's like, no, you're so great. You see yourself and you don't know anything about me. I could be whatever. Like what you're seeing is you. And that, I think, the more we can let people know that, it empowers them to be creative and you're sort of letting them behind the scenes to see all the foul shots you miss so that they can learn, like, okay, part of this is just getting past that little bit of time where you think that you suck, and until you get to the point where you're like, I feel really good about this and connected to it, And
I think for artists, to what you're saying too, I mean, it's actually twofold. One, we're being great humans and enriching society and the folks around us and the communities around us, but also it immensely benefits you to be able to be present in a room with your family or with your partner and look at them like for more than just, okay, this is quality time I'm spending before I go off to another show, before I'm away for 2 months or whatever it is. Like you're actually in a room with them and you're realizing, oh, they're a really dope painter. Oh, wow, I didn't even know he read that book. Or, you know, he's really eloquent with the way he's talking on his, you know, job Zoom, billionth Zoom of the day, you know, because all of us are kind of navigating working from home. And my partner is literally 9 to 5 in front of a computer at home. And this is the most time we spent together, like in a year or more. So
that could be a whole nother panel, I feel like.
And I think when we're able to actually recognize and pick up and appreciate the different things that make the humans that are in our bubble humans, it really enriches our experience. There's a lot of pressure to like focus on yourself all the time and constantly perfect. But we don't have to do that. That's a decision that we kind of made. That's something we just decided that we had to do. But we actually can like focus out. So one of my hobbies is genealogy. I love genealogy. Wow. I am a sleuth. I've forfeited many hours of sleep just trying to trace different people's family trees. And it's something that I really love. And I found out a lot of really cool things about my family over the last 10 years. One of my greatest accomplishments is being able to track down my mom's biological mom. So, and she was still alive, thank God. And we're all really close. But that was like 10 years ago. And it just kind of started me on a path of just finding things. And so recently I decided to do a series on Instagram TV called Captivating Convos Over Coffee, where I just talk to people who interest me in life. And I did one with my aunt last week just about family history and her roots in Tennessee and you know, the great migration from Tennessee to Cleveland that my dad and she made. And it's just amazing to be able to have the time to delve into other people's lives because it enriches ours.
That's so cool.
Yeah, very much so. Elizabeth, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I love what Laurin was just saying. I completely agree. Like my husband and I have said frequently, like this is the most time we're going to get to spend together. And so like, you know, as annoying as it is to be kind of trapped inside, like we need to value that, because when stuff goes back to normal, whenever that is, we're going to be like, oh my God, that time was quality time that we had with each other. And I think that a realization I've had like throughout quarantine as someone who is typically very isolated, like I work in a home studio, I'm alone all day usually. So my day-to-day seeing people hasn't really changed that much, but I have realized that when I don't have the socialization and like the people I love around me, I you know, work doesn't seem that important as it does to me when I'm not in a quarantine. So I think that realization is really important, because it's like if you take away every single aspect of your life except like a work desk, it's actually not that fulfilling. And you do need the people around you, and in any way you can connect with them. I've actually started having like really long phone conversations with a lot of my friends because we're like sick of Zoom. And I feel like,
me too,
you know, an old lady just like chatting on the phone for like 3 hours a day with people, but I love it. And I think that's really important. It's like the love enriches your life so much, and you need that in conjunction with your career, especially when you're in a creative field.
Thank you. And I agree with Anthony. I think there's a whole nother panel in there on that whole subject of being home with your significant other for as long as we now have.
Hey, we used to tour. We toured for 20 years and now we're home. What's up?
Nice to meet you.
So maybe for next year's conference for sure. Look, guys, thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for joining this panel. The stories and the advice are, you know, so appreciated. Thank you for allowing me to host it. And I think we're gonna just thank the viewers for checking in, and thank BPHL for setting this up, and I appreciate you all. Pleasure meeting you, and talk again soon.
Yeah. Thank you guys all so much for letting me be part of this.
See you guys.
So fucking cool.